Hey, welcome back to the Law and Crime Network. We've been covering, of course, Jason Van Dyke in Chicago, accused of murdering Laquan McDonald, shooting him 16 times back in 2014. Jason Van Dyke was a police officer at the time, and Laquan McDonald was armed with a knife. Joining us from Chicago right now via Skype is R.J. Mangone, who's been in the courthouse for the Law and Crime Network every day. R.J., how are you, sir?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
I am awesome. So let's get into this. Earlier today, there was that use of force witness, Uri Patrick, who was on the stand, and there was a lot of back and forth between the prosecution and the defense and redirect. How was the jury taking this testimony? Because the defense was making very, very valid points describing what could have happened in that situation.
Well, unfortunately, today was the first day I was not allowed in the courtroom. So I did not get to see the jury's response. But I can tell you based on what I saw, and I'm sure what you saw, if I needed an expert, I think he held it incredibly well. He met every question, even on cross. He still met every question head on. And when cross came up with a hypothetical, he just said, well, that's not what it was. That's not what was seen. It was he countered every blow, but clearly what they're trying to do, in my opinion anyway, is to bring this all down to the videotape. The defense, they're basically saying that the videotape is not accurate. It's not an accurate depiction, because if it is an accurate depiction, then everything that has been said, and that has been said about Patrick, that Uri Patrick said today, means that the defendant's guilty. He didn't act reasonably based on any of the standards. There was no threat. He had neutralized the threat, and Patrick actually also brought in that there were other police officers with their guns drawn. So there was no need. And he also said something that was very interesting to me anyway. They were discussing about reflexes in shooting and how much of a lag time once you neutralize the threat. And he said that the defendant basically went well past what is considered normal and kept shooting. Apparently, he said about a second after you realize that the threat's been neutralized, your brain should pick up on that fact and stop shooting. And he just unloaded.
Right.
A tremendous witness for the prosecution.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things that I found very interesting is every time he was asked by the prosecution, was this justified? He came back and said, no, it wasn't justified. Like you said, based on an imminent threat there, which based on that video, it's hard to articulate that. Were you in the courtroom yesterday? I understand there was someone pretty high profile, pretty famous in the courtroom named Jesse Jackson. What was the reaction in the courtroom when Jesse came in?
Well, the jury took notice. Everyone took notice. But honestly, the jury went back to looking at the photos from the autopsy. So they didn't pay too much attention to him. I don't think the defense attorneys were too pleased that he was in the room, based on just my own personal observations. I can leave it there.
Right. So he kind of sat there as a silent observer in this trial, correct?
Yes, he was over in the gallery, and he brought a few people with him. And like I said, he's hard not to notice. But he didn't draw too much attention to himself, and the jurors really focused on the autopsy and the information on the autopsy, which was hard for them to watch, hard for me to watch.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely what's going to make or break this case, the autopsy and what Van Dyke believed was reasonable. Speaking of Van Dyke, you've been in the courtroom, you've been feet away from him. What's his reaction been? How is he holding up? Like, what are his reactions? What are his facial expressions?
Without sounding insulting, he almost has seemingly, it's a vacant stare. I don't see him get emotional on either end of the spectrum. He is just neutral and kind of staring. I mean, if you've seen a couple of the pics, it's horrible to say, but it's like the lights are on, but no one's home. So I haven't gotten any sense out of him.
So you can't really read him one way or the other.
No, he's just there.
Yeah, absolutely. So speaking of being in that courtroom, is there talks, and, of course, I speculate that Van Dyke will take the stand in his own defense, but are you hearing kind of like sidebar talks about Van Dyke possibly taking the stand?
I haven't heard anything to that. I will find out. I'll ask and see if I can get any information on that. But I haven't heard. I don't know how good of an idea that would be, but
thanks, RJ. Yeah, sorry to cut you off, RJ. We got to cut to a quick break. Excellent work that you're doing for us there in the Jason Van Dyke trial. We greatly appreciate it. We'll be right back here on the Law and Crime Network with more of the top cases in this country. Stay tuned.